Some boundaries aren't meant to be crossed. And when they are, the ones who cross them often forget that the person they're betraying might just be the last person they should underestimate. The moment I saw the broken lock on my front door, my blood ran cold. I had just returned from a business trip to London, exhausted and looking forward to my own bed. Instead, I found my mother standing in the doorway of my house, blocking me from entering my own property. "We thought you were in London," my mother said flatly, not even bothering to hide the irritation in her voice. She didn't apologize. She didn't step aside. She just stood there, one hand gripping the edge of the door, the other resting on the brand new deadbolt she had installed without my permission. Through the narrow gap, I could see inside. My sister Alice was sprawled across my white sofa, her shoes still on, a glass of red wine in her hand. She looked comfortable. Too comfortable. "Alice lost her apartment," my mother continued, as if that explained the broken lock, the unauthorized entry, the complete violation of my home. "She needs this house more than you do right now. Go stay at a hotel for a few days." I felt my jaw tighten. "Open the door, Mom." She hesitated, then cracked it open another inch, keeping her foot wedged against the frame. There was no guilt in her eyes, only annoyance, as if I were a stranger who had shown up uninvited. "Keep your voice down," she hissed. "The twins are finally asleep in the guest room. Or their room now. Their room." The words hit me like a slap. "Mom, I live here. This is my house. And Alice is your sister," she shot back, her voice sharp and cutting. "She was evicted yesterday. Travis lost his job again. The landlord threw all their things on the curb. What were we supposed to do? Let them sleep in the van?" She stepped out onto the porch and pulled the door shut behind her. The deadbolt clicked into place, a sound that echoed like a gunshot in the quiet evening air. "We knew you were in London for another week," she said, crossing her arms. "We figured we'd get them settled before you got back. Less of a shock that way. We've already moved their beds in. Your father enrolled Lucas in the elementary school down the street this morning. It's done, Megan. It was a tactical strike. A fait accompli. By moving furniture, changing locks, and registering the kids for school, they had created a reality on the ground that made removing them seem impossible. They weren't asking for help. They were daring me to be the villain who ripped it all away." "You used the spare key," I said quietly. "The one I gave you for emergencies." "This is an emergency," she snapped. "Your sister has nowhere to go. And look at this place. 3 bedrooms, 3,000 square feet, and it's just you and your laptop. It's selfish, Megan. It's wasteful." Through the window, I saw Alice walk past. She was wearing my favorite robe, the cashmere one I had saved for months to buy. She looked completely at home. "I want them out," I said. My mother's face shifted instantly from aggression to martyrdom. It was her favorite weapon, weaponized pity. "How can you be so cold? Those babies in there have been through so much trauma. They finally feel safe. If you call the police tonight, they'll see a rich woman throwing toddlers onto the street. Is that who you are?" She wasn't appealing to my love. She was leveraging my shame. She knew I wouldn't drag screaming children out of their beds. She was counting on my decency to subsidize my sister's chaos. "I need to think," I said finally. "You do that," my mother replied, already turning back to the door. "We'll save you a plate." She slipped inside and locked the deadbolt. I stood on my own porch, staring at the wood grain, realizing I was effectively homeless at my own address. I walked back to my rental car and sat in the driver's seat, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. For years, I had believed my success made my mother proud. I thought the promotions, the salary, the beautiful house were proof that I was the good daughter. Sitting there in the dark, watching the glow of my own living room lights, I finally understood the truth. To my mother, I wasn't a person. I was a resource. A silo of grain to be harvested whenever Alice, the golden child, ran hungry. My stability wasn't a virtue. It was a backup generator for their chaos. They didn't love me for my success. They felt entitled to it. I looked at the house one last time. They thought they had won because they were inside and I was outside. They thought they had checkmated me with guilt. But they forgot one thing. I solve problems for a living. And I never enter a negotiation without an exit strategy. I walked back up to the porch and waited. When my mother opened the door, she was holding a plate of lasagna, a smug smile plastered on her face. "I knew you'd be sensible," she said, extending the plate. I ignored it. "I'm not hungry. I've been thinking." "You're right. I can't throw Alice and the kids out on the street." Her shoulders dropped with relief. Victory. "Oh, thank God. I knew you had a heart. Come in. The twins are dying to see their auntie." "But," I said, stopping her before she could pull me inside. "If they're staying, we need to do this properly. I can't have 5 people living here off the books. My insurance won't cover it. If anything happens to the kids, I'd be liable." She waved a hand dismissively. "We don't need to involve insurance. It's just family." "It's asset protection," I said, stepping past her into the foyer. The smell of cheap wine and diaper cream hit me instantly. "Actually, I have a better idea. If Alice stays here as my estate caretaker, I can put her on my company payroll. It's a tax write-off for me. For her, it means full corporate health insurance." I saw Alice's ears perk up from the living room. She lowered her wine glass. "Health insurance? Like dental and vision?" "Everything," I lied smoothly. "Gold tier. No deductibles. But to make it legal, you have to be an employee. That means signing an employment contract." I knew my sister. She hadn't worked a real job in 6 years. The promise of free, high-end benefits was the one thing that could override her laziness. "I can have the papers drawn up in an hour," I said, pulling out my laptop. "Standard stuff. The job description is basically keeping the house standing. In exchange, you get room, board, and the benefits package." Alice narrowed her eyes, suspicious but tempted. "That sounds generous." "It's a win-win. I get a tax break. You get security." I sat at my kitchen island, ignoring the sticky juice rings now staining the granite, and started typing. I wasn't writing a lease. A lease creates a landlord-tenant relationship, which in this state means I'd need a court order and 6 months to evict her. I was writing a caretaker agreement. Internally, I recited the legal distinction like a mantra. A tenant pays rent and has possession. A licensee, like a hotel guest or a live-in nanny, has a revocable privilege to be on the property. If the employment ends, the license ends immediately. No eviction court. No probate. Just a trespassing charge. I added the lethal clauses deep in the document, burying them in the benefits section. Clause 4A. Housing is provided strictly as a condition of employment. Clause 9C. Termination of employment results in immediate revocation of housing license. Clause 12. Employee consents to 24/7 video monitoring in common areas for asset protection. And the final nail, Clause 15, employee authorizes employer to conduct comprehensive background and credit checks for insurance bonding. I printed the document and slid it across the counter. "Sign this and you're covered." Alice picked up the pen. My mother beamed, looking between us like she had single-handedly brokered world peace. They thought they had just secured a free ride for life. They had no idea they were signing a confession. Alice scanned the document, her eyes skipping over the paragraphs. She wasn't reading. She was hunting for keywords. Benefits. Salary. 0 rent. "Do I really have to log maintenance hours?" she asked, tapping a fingernail on page 3. "It's just for the IRS audit trail. Put down 5 hours a week watering plants, checking the HVAC. As long as the paperwork exists, the benefits apply." My mother hovered over her shoulder. "Just sign it, Alice. Your sister is offering you a lifeline. Don't pick it apart until it breaks." Alice sighed dramatically and clicked the pen. "Fine. But I need the insurance card by Monday. The twins have checkups." "Monday, I promised." She pressed the pen to the paper. Alice P. Miller. I watched the loops of her handwriting close. In her mind, she was signing a lease for a free mansion. In the eyes of the law, she was signing away every tenant protection this state offered. She wasn't a resident anymore. She was an employee. And in an at-will employment state, you can be fired for any reason at any time. "And here," I said, signing my own name with a flourish. "Official." I pulled a slip of paper from my pocket. "These are the new door codes. I've reactivated the smart locks. The manual deadbolt Mom installed?" Let's just keep that unlocked for now. Fire safety. My mother snatched the paper. See? Was that so hard? I have to go, I said, checking my watch. My flight to London leaves in 3 hours. I still need to get to the airport. Go, go, my mother said, already opening my fridge, claiming my territory. We'll hold down the fort. Have a safe trip. I walked out the front door, the same one they had barred me from an hour ago. I got into my rental car and drove down the block, parking just around the corner, out of sight. I wasn't going to London. I was going to the Embassy Suites 3 miles away. I pulled out my iPad and opened the security app. The feed from the kitchen camera popped up in crisp 4K resolution. Alice was standing by the island. She wasn't celebrating. She was rushing to the front door. A moment later, she reappeared on screen, clutching a thick stack of envelopes. Mail she must have intercepted while I was arguing with my mother. She didn't open them. She looked over her shoulder, checked if anyone was watching, and shoved the entire stack into the back of the pantry behind the cereal boxes. My eyes narrowed. People don't hide junk mail. They hide warnings. I started the car. The trap was set. But it looked like Alice had already brought her own shovel to dig the grave. I wasn't in London. I was 3 miles away in a junior suite at the Embassy Suites, eating a club sandwich and watching my life fall apart in 4K resolution. My command center was set up on the hotel desk. My laptop displayed the security feeds from the kitchen, the living room, and the hallway. The caretaker agreement Alice signed authorized 24/7 video monitoring. She had signed it without reading it, and now that signature was the only thing keeping me sane. On screen, my living room looked like a frat house after a party. Less than 6 hours since I left, and Alice was already breaking every rule in the contract. She sat at the kitchen island, a lit cigarette dangling from her fingers, ashing directly onto my quartz countertop. Smoke curled toward the ceiling sensors. In the living room, my 5-year-old nephew Lucas was drawing on my white walls with a permanent marker. My mother watched him do it. She didn't stop him. She was too busy moving my furniture, dragging my bookshelf across the hardwood floor to make room for a massive, ugly recliner they must have hauled in from a U-Haul. I took a sip of hotel wine. The disrespect was total. It was absolute. And it was recorded. Alice pulled out her phone. I turned up the volume on my laptop. Yeah, she's gone. Alice laughed into the receiver. Total sucker. She thinks I'm going to maintain the HVAC. Please. I'm never leaving. This place is mine now. Mom says Megan owes us for all the years she didn't help. She hung up and walked to the pantry. She opened the door and pulled out that stack of hidden envelopes. She fanned them out, her face tight with anxiety. She wasn't looking at them like mail. She was looking at them like a bomb she was trying to defuse. I leaned forward and clicked the zoom function. The resolution held. I could read the return address on the top envelope in bold, angry black ink. Kruger and Vance, Attorneys at Law, Collections Division. I paused the feed and opened the background check I had legally ordered under Clause 15. The report was disastrous. 3 evictions in 4 years. Maxed out credit cards in default. An active civil lawsuit for $28,400 in unpaid rent and damages filed by Kruger and Vance. Alice hadn't just lost housing. She had committed rental fraud and disappeared to avoid being served. She was hiding in my house. My phone alerted me to smoke in the kitchen. On camera, Alice calmly lit another cigarette, completely unaware she was being recorded. She thought she was squatting in a free mansion. She didn't realize she was a fugitive in a glass house, and I had the coordinates. I terminated her employment by email. I revoked her right to occupy the property and gave her 2 hours to leave. She laughed, claiming squatters' rights. She believed she was a tenant. She was wrong. I shut off the internet. I dropped the heat to 50 degrees. I locked the smart home system. I sealed the fridge remotely and activated pulsing alert lights throughout the house. Panic followed. One by one, her allies cracked. Her partner left. The house grew colder. Then I called Kruger and Vance and gave them her exact location. Within the hour, a process server knocked. Alice was served. The truth hit her instantly. They fled the house in chaos, abandoning everything. I reset the system, changed all the codes, removed her access, blocked every number, and reclaimed my home. By morning, it was professionally cleaned. Alice now faces wage garnishment and permanent rental blacklisting. Sitting alone in the restored silence, I understood the lesson clearly. The most powerful punishment is not confrontation. It is withdrawal, absence, freedom. And sometimes, the best revenge is simply letting people dig their own graves while you watch from somewhere warm, safe, and completely untouchable.